there, I'm Jules. Nice to see you. The word of the day today is battery. You know, like things that you need to make things go. Very descriptive, Julia. Awesome. Awesome. You can call me Jules or Julia. I don't really care. If you'd like to know why battery is the word of the day, watch my next video and then read the description to find out. Hi, babes. We're playing Seduce Me. The episodes. We're going to play a couple episodes. I assume they're pretty short because there's a lot of them. I just got my heart broken, in Seduce Me 2. Erik died in front of me and then I died, and I'm not traumatized at all. I'm totally fine. I'm not upset at all. Not at all. So we're just not gonna talk about Seduce Me 2, the Demon War. We're not gonna talk about it. I was gonna say talk and speak. We're not gonna teak about it. We're not gonna teak about it, okay? The episode series. So we have quite a few to choose from. We have A Lesson in Romance, James, My Princess, Erik, Shall We Dance, Sam, Simon's Revenge, Matthew, City Lights, Damien, A Succubus Sacrifice, Diana, Burning Hot Love, Malix, The Beach episode, The Holiday episode, The Harem episode, Ever After, Ever After, Happily Ever After, Just Another Day, Perfect Service, The Prince versus the Brute. So I'm going to do a couple of them. Well, not all of them. Obviously, I'm going to do Erik. Okay. My beautiful princess, I'm yours forever. Erik and I have been living the perfect fairy tale, and I couldn't be happier of the fact. However, something still intrigues me. What was life like for Erik as a noble? What is your name? You should know my name! When you're dating someone, you expect surprises. Depending on who you're dating, the surprises can range from a new habit that they may have had, or something that may change how you see them. When it comes to dating a demon, the possibilities become endless. That's right, I was in love with a demon. The many surprises he showed me included him being an incubus, him having tentacle powers, and him being an ex-noble from a large expanding kingdom. I didn't think anything could take the cake on top of those things. Tentacle powers. I was wrong. I found myself dressed to the nines, sitting in my fiancé's luxury car as we drove into the city of Chicago. I didn't wear fancy clothes often, so feeling the lavish fabrics of the gown I was wearing against my skin was almost uncomfortable. Still, I had to admit, when I saw myself in the mirror, I was floored at how I looked. I was in a beautifully designed red and black dress with matching heels and jeweled accessories. I still would never know how Erik was able to obtain it all, but he gifted the gown, the shoes, and the jewelry to me with a simple smile. Part of me knew that he had made the dress by hand. He owned a custom suit shop and had access to the finest fabrics in the city. His skill wasn't limited to suits, however. He could make anything that was deemed as formal wear. As for the shoes and jewelry, I couldn't figure it out and had decided to let it go. The drive into the city became one filled with curiosity. Why did I have to be dressed up? Where exactly were we going? Erik?
Yes, my princess?
Where are we going? A chuckle escaped Erik's lips as he continued to drive into the night.
I told you, it's a surprise.
A surprise that requires me to dress up like I'm going to a prom?
Not a prom, exactly.
Erik. Erik's smile grew as he lowered a hand from the wheel and took a gentle hold of mine, bringing it to his lips and laying a butterfly kiss over it.
I promise you will enjoy yourself. You have my word.
I stared at Erik, a small blush adorning my face at his gentle words and kiss. Giving up at last, I nodded and simply let him guide us further into the heart of the city. Chicago was a beautiful city, especially at night. The lights that illuminated the streets and buildings were a grand sight to behold, and the lively aura of the night's energy that filled every alley and sidewalk was simply enchanting. You could take me out of Chicago, but you could never take the love of Chicago out of me. I don't know anything about Chicago, so I cannot confirm or deny that. To my surprise, the traffic towards our destination was almost non-existent. We were in the richest part of Chicago, and at last we arrived at our destination, one that took me completely off guard. The outside looked like a regular business building. At the very top of the tower was a large sign that said, "The Gateway," in bright yellow colors. Something about it stood out somehow, which made me curious. What was in store for this place? Erik led me out of the car, opening my door for me and escorting me out with a gentle hand. As he closed the door behind me, a man dressed in a bellboy suit rushed up to Erik and held out his hands. Erik dug his hands in his tuxedo pocket and finally took out a small white envelope, passing it and his car keys to the bellboy. The bellboy took the items and quickly rushed to the driver's side of the car, driving it off like a valet. I watched the car head into a nearby parking lot as I unconsciously took Erik's arm. As I turned back to him, I could tell that I was in for more surprises. He handed me a mask and silently instructed me to put it on as we walked up the steps to the door. It fit like a glove. A pair of bellboys opened the doors for Erik and me, revealing a lavish lobby with a simple, large pedestal platform in the middle of the room. Stepping up to it, we were stopped by a large woman in a dress suit.
Invitation?
I looked at Erik, watching him take out a golden slip of paper from his pocket and pass it to the woman. The guard looked over at the parchment before nodding to Erik and stepping away from our path to the pedestal. Where on earth were we going? I remained silent and still as we stepped up to the platform and settled in the middle of it, Erik guiding us to stop and stay still in place. Erik nodded to the guard, who simply nodded back and waved her hand in the air. As she did, the pedestal beneath us slowly shifted and began to rise into the air. Whoa! I gripped Erik tightly as the platform beneath us ascended through the building. All around us were sights of pictures and diamond chandeliers. Whatever this was, I could tell this was by no means a regular event. When we reached the top floor, or what I assumed to be the top floor, we were greeted by a pair of women in waitress suits, bowing to us in respect. As their bird tail feathers and pure black eyes presented themselves to me, I knew then that this was a demon party. The doors opened to a large ballroom, one that definitely didn't seem to fit the inside of a suite room. All around were couples and groups mingling and dancing elegantly to the sounds of Victorian-style orchestral music. I was astonished, even as I was led in by Erik. Everyone was dressed in modern formal wear with a range of dresses and tuxedos. It was almost dizzying how much the aged music clashed with the modern fashion of the patrons. Yet I couldn't tear my eyes away from the sight of the guests. Wow.
Welcome to a small taste of the demon world, my princess.
The guests were all demons, some with horns, some with tails, and the rest with an assortment of different looks. It was a conglomerate of people, and I felt a little bit out of place as someone who looked obviously human. As we stepped further into the space, a voice chirped out,
Erik, my boy, come fly over here, will you?
"Oh, Lord. Furries?" I looked over to see a birdman with a polished tuxedo wave us over with a very handsome gentleman with mouse ears on his arm. Despite the nerves running through my system, Erik and I walked over. As Erik bowed his head, I quickly curtsied. For some reason, the way the birdman carried himself made him seem like a prince. I was in awe of his gorgeous tail feathers and beak, extended by the lavish suit he wore.
Connor, you look splendid. I assume you approve of your tuxedo?
Approve? I absolutely love it! Ricardo here won't let go of me because of it.
I looked over at the mouse man, who I assumed to be Ricardo, as he smiled coyly and hugged Connor's arm tightly, nodding in agreement of Connor's words. I smiled a bit as Erik laughed.
Very good. Well, thank you for inviting us to your anniversary celebration. It is an honor to be in such company.
Nonsense! Thank you for attending! As the son of the most powerful demon in the abyssal planes, it's only proper to invite you regardless. My only regret is not inviting your brothers. I must seem so rude.
Erik waved his hand dismissively.
Think nothing of it. We actually denounced our titles when we came to this world.
You don't say? Well, good on you! You do such fabulous work as a designer here. It's no wonder that your suit shop is unmatched.
Connor finally turned his head to me and cocked it in curiosity. I felt a bit small under his gaze, but smiled respectively back.
And who might this lovely lady be? A human?
Erik nodded and lifted my hand to his lips, kissing it respectfully before our conversation partners.
This is my wonderful princess. I asked her to accompany me tonight to show her how elegant a demon ball can be.
How marvelous! I rarely get to meet humans. It is an absolute delight to meet you.
Connor held out his hand towards me, making me place my hand in it out of manners. Instead of kissing my hand, he lifted it to his beak and very gently nipped a couple times at the back of it, making me giggle a bit. It's a pleasure to meet you, too. Connor released my hand and smiled at me before looking back at Erik.
Well, Erik, princess, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you. Please enjoy the ball. Dance and eat as much as you like.
We shall. Thank you.
With that, Erik and I walked away from Connor and Ricardo, both of whom were waving at us before turning to find new conversation partners. So this is a demon ball?
Yes, princess. You've been curious about what life was like for me in the demon world, yes?
I nodded. I was indeed curious about Erik's life in the demon world, but I didn't expect him to give me an experience. This was completely out of the blue. Erik gestured to the room, where the couples on the dance floor were waltzing in sync. It was mesmerizing.
Well, this is a perfect representation of how demon royals celebrated. We had elegant balls filled with dancing and food, and they would only end when the sun came up.
Really? I thought the demon world was like the Dark Ages. This seems like a fairy tale ball, not really medieval. Erik chuckled and walked with me around the dance floor, continuing his explanation.
The demon world may be stuck in the Dark Ages, but we do take inspiration from the human world. Your fairy tales inspired our celebrations.
I couldn't stop staring at the dancers and the demons in the room. There were so many people dressed up like royalty that I felt almost underdressed. There were some glances my way, but none with ill intent. It was probably natural, since I was a human in a room full of demons. Slyly, Erik led me onto the dance floor and began to waltz with me to the music. We remained outside of the crowd, dancing to our own beat and sways as the rest of the dancers kept in time and step with the synchronized dancing. So instead of getting phones and computers, you got balls and dresses?
You are correct. The demon world has no need for computers or phones, but new traditions of celebration are always welcomed.
No raves or clubs?
Too human for our tastes.
No light shows or DJs?
That would require electricity, my princess, which we don't care to use. To us, it's a waste of energy.
I pursed my lips at Erik as he slowly began to ease us into the crowd. I barely noticed the dancers moving aside and stopping their dances to stare at us as I locked eyes with Erik, continuing the conversation. Do demons have balls often?
Unfortunately, no. Hosting celebrations take a large amount of resources, so we save balls for only the most grand of occasions.
Like birthdays?
Demons don't celebrate birthdays, princess. However, we celebrate the peaceful uniting of kingdoms or the crowning of a new ruler.
I became fascinated, even as Erik began to twirl me around and add elaborate steps into the dance between us. We both focused on each other as we let the world around us fade into a blurred outline of people and decor.
However, the human world has provided demons here the means to celebrate many more things.
Like Connor's anniversary? Erik nodded and dipped me for a moment, staring deep into my eyes.
Exactly.
I held on to Erik, mesmerized by his lovely purple eyes. I squeezed his hand gently and caused him to lift me back up and hold me close in a loving embrace.
And one day, I would love to hold an elegant ball for our union.
Erik. My face began to glow a soft rosy red as I smiled up at my prince. I loved him with every ounce of my being, and a fairy tale wedding and ball seemed like a perfect way to celebrate. I stretched up on my toes and kissed Erik ever so gently before pulling away with a giggle. I would love that. Erik stared at me in surprise for a moment before chuckling and nuzzling his head against mine, a playful but loving smirk against his lips.
My beautiful princess, I am yours forever.
Until you die. And I'm yours, my Prince Charming. And the night became one of fairy tale dancing and a seemingly happy ever after for me and my demon prince. Oh, I guess that takes place in between them. Okay, how about we do a harem episode? Because that sounds fun. Oh, abs. I like that. What are my true feelings? I've lived with the boys for a long time, adjusting to life with them by my side. Over time, I've grown to love all 5 of them. How am I supposed to choose which incubus to love? My name is Jules. What do you do when you live in a mansion with 5 extremely attractive men who were relentlessly stuck on your radar? Such a normal question. Would you make a move on one of them? Which one? What if all 5 men were appealing to you in different ways to where you couldn't make up your mind? These were the hard questions I had to consider. It's true. I lived in a mansion with 5 drop-dead gorgeous men, and I was attracted to all of them. Not 1, not 2, all 5 of them, and they were brothers. Well, half-brothers, but they acted as close as blood could let them. But I wasn't someone who just dwelled on looks. Each boy had their own internal charm and joy that I found endearing and amazing to witness. There were so many reasons why the boys embedded themselves into my heart. I mean, it wasn't like they were making it easy not to fall for each of them individually anyway. James was the perfect image of a gentleman and a reliable partner. He led the charge on taking care of the house and managed my grandfather's company as its CEO at the time. He was the definition of leadership and yet treated me as the true power of the house. Erik's masterful charm easily swayed me and kept me flustered and giddy with every compliment he showered me with. He was a fashion designer, but my imagination would run wild thinking of him in just a towel, or less. Still, behind his charming mask, I knew a sweet man was hiding away, eager to simply see me smile. The strong man Sam was a surprise to me. While he was rough and tough on the outside, the more I got to know him, the sweeter and gentler he became. Not many would have believed how tender he was, but I was one of the lucky ones. My attraction for him increased when I saw him put on his policeman uniform for the first time. Okay. No comment. Then there was Matthew, a sweet and playful man. He somehow made me feel like a teenager again with how much he made me smile. Yet, despite his youthful behavior, he was much more mature than one would believe at first glance. Isn't this character supposed to be 18? You're still a teenager. But turn the corner and you have the most darling boy of the bunch, Damien. He's a practical image of being innocent and naive, but he can still stand on his own 2 feet as a man. He's extremely empathetic, but that could have been because of his mind-reading ability. 5 boys, 5 paths to take, yet I stood at the crossroad not wanting to pick any. How could this have been? I needed to make a choice eventually, right? Right? I sat in my bed one morning, contemplating my own indecision on the matter. Every social construct I knew of humanity and morality screamed for me to make a choice on who to truly fall for. I followed this idea for the longest time. Yet, I felt doubt on this social construct. Maybe, well, I found myself adoring each boy for their own unique reasons. To choose between them seemed an impossible idea. What if I just figured out my personal type of guy? Was I more into gentlemen or laid-back personalities? Did I want an older acting partner or a younger acting one? Someone who would play rough or be gentle? I liked all of them equally. I was pretty open in terms of romance. Not that I wasn't picky by any means, but I wasn't ever one to judge and favoritize anyone based on who they were or how they acted. If I liked them, I liked them. Period. There was no reason to hate one in order to focus on loving another. That was idiotic. I liked all the boys, and it was illogical for me to try and divide each one to figuring out if each one was my soulmate or not. Did I have to? Did I want to? I was still questioning myself and learning my heart slowly and surely. What if my heart... I shook my head and sighed, unable to answer my own thoughts on the matter. This was ridiculous. Even if I couldn't figure it out now, there seemed to be no rush on the matter. The boys were happy to live with me regardless. Yeah, everything was fine for now. I stretched my arms above my head and let out a yawn, finally ready to get out of bed and prepare for the day. After all, whether or not I was in a relationship, I still had to live my daily life. And thus, my day began. After getting dressed and walking down to the dining room, I was once again greeted by a plate covered with a silver lid dome. I could only smile. The boys always made breakfast for me each morning before going out to work. Since I was a college student taking online classes, I got to stay at home in my comfy clothes. It was a perk to get freshly made breakfast every morning. I sat down to eat and was greeted by the shine of the silver plate cover hiding my morning meal. Lifting the cover, the smell of delicious food wafted into my nose and completely enveloped me in warmth. I couldn't deny myself from digging in. I took my time in digging in, using my phone to watch some videos on YouTube. However, as I browsed through the list, a live stream caught my attention. No way. I clicked on the video to let it load and play live, watching as a pretty interviewer sat in a comfy chair across from one of the incubi in mid-interview.
Are you sure you can't spill any special secrets waiting for us from Anderson Toys? I'm sure kids all around the world are dying to know what is the next toy line to be excited for.
I've said all I can say about our future endeavors.
All right. Still, I'm sure there's one thing you could answer. Our viewers are dying to know more about you.
And what would that be?
Is there anyone who has,
Oh my god.
caught your eye, per se? A special someone?
Special someone. I stared at my phone in awe at the blunt question. Did this host seriously just ask if James was interested in someone on a live platform in such a manner? He was a CEO. He was above such questions, wasn't he?
I mean, come on. You're currently the owner of a Fortune 500 company, listed as #1 on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, and are in the running to be the next sexiest man alive. We gotta know.
I rolled my eyes and continued to eat, tempted to change videos to watch something less demeaning. Before I could, though, I was stunned by James replying.
Well, I mean, there is someone whom I've been interested in for a while.
Wait, what?
Ooh, really? Can we know a little more about this mysterious lucky person?
Well, they are quite magnificent in their own right. They're generous, kind, and yet they know how to hold their own when things get tough.
Yeah, that totally sounds like me. Sounds like a wonderful person. I felt a little upset. James had really found someone to like? Maybe it was a wonderful CEO of another company he met during a business trip. Maybe it was a coworker. It was fair game. I couldn't deny the ping of sadness at the idea, but he wasn't something to possess no matter how much I adored him. It wasn't fair to just claim him. The same was said for me if he had ever wanted me as his. I still adored his brothers in the same value. It took me a moment to recognize my thoughts on the matter. Claiming seemed wrong, but sharing,
However, it will be up to them whether or not our relationship goes forward.
Ooh, what does that mean?
Well, I'm not the only one who favors them. Let's go with that.
So someone who's popular, huh? That could have been any celebrity alive. Any majorly influential person who was in James' circle was on the list of potential interests. I had to be happy for him. While I expected to be fully upset at the idea, I seemed to lean more towards understanding? Self-acknowledgement?
They must be very lucky to be so well liked.
Indeed. We care for them very much.
Now, hold on. You said we. Does that mean you know your romantic rivals personally? Like, are they your friends?
But,
My video was stopped by a phone call, pausing my content to show Sam's number on my phone screen. I took in a breath, still slightly scattered about James's interview, before answering. Sam?
Hey, doofus. Got a preference for dinner?
Not really. I just started eating breakfast. Aren't we supposed to be at work? I suddenly heard shuffling on the other end, confusing me even further.
Hey, was breakfast good? Damien and I worked really hard on it. Hey, give me back the phone, runt! Pause off.
I'd like to know if it was good.
Matthew? Damien? Aren't you guys supposed to be at work? All of you?
Oh, well, all of us took the day off. Well, except for an interview James had on some YouTube channel or something. Anyway, we're all home today, so we figured let's have an epic dinner.
Oh, that's a really nice idea.
Yes, it is. We're at the store now, so we wanted to ask for your input before we bought anything.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you. I went back to relaxing at the idea of having a grand dinner with the boys. It had been a while since we all sat together to eat, as each of us had very different schedules. It was to be expected, of course, given the wide range of jobs the boys had. I let them know my preference and couldn't help but be excited for the night ahead. All 5 boys for one night seemed really nice.
Sounds good. Be back home soon.
I hung up and smiled, but my smile quickly faded as the live video came back up at a shocking revelation.
Well, I hope for the best for you, Mr. Anderson. You and your brothers are fine gentlemen, and the lucky suitor will have a hard time picking who to be with. Am I right?
Am I right? Wait, James and his brothers? All of them? They all seriously like the same person. A feeling of confusion washed over me. I knew logically that I probably had just much of a chance against whoever they all had feelings for, but I barely saw them except for when they each came back home or had a day off. Who could have gotten their attention? It wasn't a matter of dominance, but a matter of curiosity. However, a small ping of doubt flickered in my mind. While it was probably someone close to all of them, what was I compared to the being they did fawn for? The hair on the back of my neck rose at the thought of another demon potentially seducing them. It wouldn't have been a surprise, being that demons did roam the world and incubi and succubi were the most common breed. A demon attracting them? What of another powerful human that hooked them into their charm? I felt bittersweet, almost sad at imagining such a person. I was close to the boys, but just because I was close didn't give me privilege over their affections. If someone else whet their palates, then it wasn't on me to change their minds. I felt hopeless for the rest of the day, hiding away in my room to study in isolation until dinner. I'd gotten a majority of my studies and projects done within the span of the day before hearing a knock at my bedroom door. Who is it? Like it mattered.
Erik, Your Highness.
I smiled out of habit for the nickname. It was sweet to be held in such a regard and have such a title given to me. Come in. The door opened to indeed reveal Erik with his charming smile. I turned from my desk and smiled back in kind, guessing as to why he came to my room. What's up, Erik?
Dinner's almost ready, Your Highness. The others are cooking and setting the table, so I took it upon myself to inform you.
Thank you, Erik. I appreciate it. I stood up from my seat, feeling hunger finally hit my stomach, and began to walk out of my room with Erik a step behind.
May I ask you something, Your Highness?
Of course. What is it?
Is there something bothering you?
I stopped and turned to look at Erik in surprise. What brought that question? What do you mean?
Well, you've been in your room most of the day. We were concerned, but we didn't wish to disturb you if you were working on something important.
Erik held out a hand to me, offering it in both a literal and metaphorical sense. Should I tell him? I trusted him as much as the rest of the incubi. But did he really have to know? I still didn't even know what I was feeling. It was something I had to figure out on my own. I was strong enough and smart enough to eventually do that over time. I wanted something outside the norm, yet was I ready to attempt? Was I in a place to try? That was something I had to figure out eventually. It's nothing really, just something I have to deal with, that's all. Still, I took his hand and gave it a small squeeze to reassure him. I'm all right, really. Thank you, though, for your concern. Erik stared at me with a soft, worried expression, but nodded nonetheless. He brought up my hand and kissed over my knuckles in respect before releasing it with a nod.
Very well, Your Highness. To dinner? I
nodded in return, and off we went to the dining hall for dinner. I was greeted by amazing smells and the smiles of the rest of the incubi. The table was set, full of delicious food to eat, which made my empty stomach grumble loudly. Oh,
Someone's hungry. I feel you, though. Cooking all this was torture on an empty belly.
It's all amazing, though. I can't wait to eat.
you're not even going to tell me what it is. I had to agree. I sat down, guided to be the head of the table by Erik, and watched as the boys finished setting the table and sat down one by one.
Oh, finally. Ooh, dinner looks good, Matthew.
Thanks. James and Damien helped out a lot.
It was a successful group effort, but let's not keep our stomachs waiting. Shall we?
The boys looked to me as if they wanted me to give the okay to start eating. Why me? Regardless, I grabbed my plate and began to fill it with food stationed in front of me, giving the physical okay to start. Let's eat. At that moment, we each began to pass around and fill our plates with food before digging straight in. I savored every bite and mentally drowned myself in the joy rushing through my body. The boys were excellent cooks. I mentally noted to one day ask for the recipes of the dishes I really enjoyed. But then I stopped my thoughts. Why would I need to ask them for the recipes if they were going to be here to cook them? I mean, it was good to learn them, but to imagine asking for the recipes gave me a cold reminder that they couldn't stay here forever. They had to move on with their lives one day. It wasn't fair to them to keep them cooped up here for the rest of their lives. Besides, it was no good to stick around here if they found romance outside of the mansion walls. I suddenly slipped into a depressive state, slowing my eating to a snail-like pace as the boys chatted amongst themselves.
Huh? Hey.
I stared into my plate, trying to not get even more upset at my own heart. I had feelings for all the boys, yet I couldn't be selfish and keep them all. It wasn't fair to them.
Hello?
I focused on chewing my food, trying to block out my mind screaming at me to make a choice, or just swallow the fact that I couldn't have the boys. They all apparently wanted someone else.
Doofus!
I was snapped out of my thoughts, suddenly dropping my fork onto my plate and shooting my head up to see all 5 boys staring at me in concern. Shit. Hi, what's up?
Is everything all right? Is the food not to your liking?
We can make you something else if you want.
Please, tell us.
They each seemed to stare at me in adoring care. Was it because they truly did care, or was it out of the continued debt they apparently owed me for saving them? My mind began to doubt itself, despite the answer being clear. I didn't know how to think. I didn't know what to think. My mouth decided to act on its own. Who do you all like? Okay. I suddenly covered my mouth in horror at what I had just let slip. James' interview bothered me. My own heart bothered me. I needed closure of some kind to stop myself from doubting and second-guessing my own sanity and morality. The boys stared wide-eyed at me in surprise, stunned probably at my question. They didn't have to answer. I wasn't their warden or parent. I knew this. James, however, cleared his throat, taking the attention and cutting through it to awkward silence.
May I ask what brought this on?
I grimaced and slumped into my chair, ashamed of bringing the subject up. I saw your interview today, James. The host grilled you about the person you like, and, well, since apparently the host thought you all liked the same person, I guess I was curious. The boys looked to James, then they all switched their gazes amongst each other, nervously, before squirming in their seats in discomfort. Damn it. Sorry, it's nothing really.
No, Highness. I believe it's fair you should know.
Huh? I stared at Erik as he ran a hand through his hair and stared down his brothers with a serious gaze.
We are all indeed infatuated by the same person. It's rather peculiar, as we had assumed all of us would have different tastes.
Yeah. It's kind of awkward. But it's kind of unavoidable at this point. After all, we may be different, but our feelings are pretty close to the same.
It's been difficult. Sam and James almost got into a fight about it.
He started it! I didn't for once!
Still, it's been rather hard for all of us to come together about it. At least, until now.
Until now? What do you mean? Silence claimed the air again, still from the awkward topic and unsure feelings I was having. Sam growled and stood up, looking over his brothers with almost a snarl before looking to me.
Fuck all of you then. Look, enough with the silence. We all like you, okay?
What?
Sam, come on! We had a plan!
It's already screwed up, Matthew! Besides, look. It's obviously been bothering them for a while. Why delay it?
Highness, was this what bothered you?
My mind wasn't listening. I was so focused on what Sam had proclaimed. They all liked me? My entire body went into overdrive. I was elated, confused, relieved, and in a panic all at once. All 5 boys liked me. Why me? They were willing to share loving me? I was open to having all of them? I became lost, leaning back against my chair in stunned silence.
Hey, are you okay?
Each brother quickly stood from their spot and rushed over to surround me, checking my temperature and pulse in worry. I was too lost in my own thoughts to fight back or react.
And this is why we go with the plan, Sam.
Oh, fuck off. You weren't helping. This whole thing was delaying the inevitable.
Are you okay? Talk to us.
You all really like me? The boys had moved my chair to the side so they could all face me from the front. Each of them stared at me in slight relief of my reply, most likely to ensure that I was okay before nodding collectively.
It's been a bit of an ordeal amongst us. After all, we were never fans of, well, sharing.
However, you've imprinted yourself into our lives so deeply, none of us could imagine ourselves without you.
So, we kind of agreed to ask you about it. I mean, if you knew who you wanted to be with, the rest of us could back off.
No. My interjection made the boys lean back a bit in shock. I couldn't help it, but I was still unsure of which boy to pick if I wanted to pick at all. I loved all of them wholeheartedly and truly needed them in my life for my heart to feel complete. I didn't care about the social stigma and validity of shared love, even if it happened to be with 5 very attractive, intelligent, and adoring young men. I love all of you the same. I could tell I stunned the boys with my words. Still, my heart felt lighter in revealing my true feelings. I've thought about it day after day, and I still cannot find any true reason to stop loving any of you just for one of you. All of you are so wonderful, and each in your own special ways. The weight pulling down on my stomach and heart began to lift as I continued to spill my internal thoughts. Maybe we could work this out. Maybe we could slowly work towards a solution. We were all in the same position after all. I took in the sight of all of them looking amongst each other in contemplation and uncertainty. I couldn't find any other words to say and simply waited, hoping one of them would speak up. Finally, Damien smiled and took my hand before looking to his older brothers.
I believe we can all work this out together.
Huh? James smiled back and nodded, crossing his arms.
Well, if your heart says you cannot choose one, and if none of us will back down, then I believe there is only one solution.
If it's as I hope, then I quite like this solution.
Erik lifted my other hand and kissed it with a grin of his own. I knew what the solution was, but it seemed like a fairy tale answer. Were they sure? Was it really okay? Sam walked around beside me and rustled my hair, smirking slightly.
Think you can handle all of us, doofus?
Wait, really?
Of course. I mean, I don't really see a problem as long as we stay open with each other.
I think all of us just want you to be happy, and we each want to be a part of that.
I felt tears well up in the corners of my eyes. This was truly happening. I whimpered a bit in joy before openly crying, causing each boy to comfort me with hands on my shoulders and arms. Matthew and Damien wiped away each falling tear from my cheeks as Erik and James rubbed and massaged my hands and forearms. Sam went from rustling to petting my head, soothing me in his own way. Elation and joy rumbled in my chest as I sat there, feeling lighter than air at last. I could be happy with all the boys, and they would all be happy with me. It was a tough road to travel on, but we would walk through it together. I smiled at each of the boys at last, feeling my sadness and nerves fade completely into happy contentment. I love all of you so much. We finished dinner with grins and laughs. The food was even more delicious with a smile on my face. The moment I finished, I excused myself to shower and dress for bed. It was getting late after all. I simply washed all of my previous doubts and worries away under the shower's rain. This was a whole new world for me, being able to love and care for all 5 incubi without internally fighting about which is better. Each of them were different, and I loved all of them the same. The evening had become my first night being fully in love with all 5 brothers and knowing that they were each in love with me. I dressed for bed and practically skipped to my room, only to be surprised by the boys once again that night.
Surprise! Mind if we sleep in your room tonight?
Oh my god, the art doesn't even... Okay. I'm not gonna lie, Matthew's a little bit unsettling. I think that's supposed to be Matthew. Is that supposed to be Matthew and James? What the hell? Oh my god. Where is there even room for me to sleep?
The bed's kind of small, you know.
Exactly.
Then I guess we'll have to invest in a bigger one, if that's all right, Highness.
That should be easy enough to arrange.
Ready for bed?
Oh my god. My heart caught in my chest. All 5 boys were in my bed and were waiting to sleep with me. I could already imagine the warmth from cuddling with all of them through the night. Can you imagine how hot that would be, though? Like, temperature-wise. I would be so sweaty, like, 5 minutes in. However, only one thought ran through my mind. We definitely needed a bigger bed. Oh my god. I love this game. I'm sorry. I just love this game. I think I'll call it here. I did Erik and I did the Harem. I'm good. I feel good about this. I hope you had fun, because I had fun, and I will see you later.